Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to Dirty Pretty, the space where we own our feelings, honor our experiences, share unfiltered truths, and talk shit, all through the lens of love. Today, we are blessed to live in the luxurious, serene energy of Luisa. That's how I like to say it, Luisa. A self-proclaimed intuitive who believes in walking a mystical path with practical feet. Always curious about what's underneath the surface and how it's all connected, Luisa welcomes us to consider wholeness as experiencing life through our senses. She uses Ayurveda to give us clues into understanding and responding with our body's natural rhythms and recognizing what energies or rhythms we naturally respond to, down to the words we use through, and you can correct me on this in a moment, Luisa, if I'm saying it wrong, wired, weird movements, and radically reconciling with it all by learning to trust the inner dialogue of body wisdom that encourages us to live from essence by moving through conscious action. Luisa invites us to be satiated in our sensuality and believes that the permission to wholly experience life occurs when we permit ourselves to practice wholeness as a lifestyle of mind, body, spirit, and nutrition. Welcome, Luisa.
Wow. I think I never had someone introduce me this like luxurious, as you said.
You certainly are
Wonderful.
deserving of it. I'm so happy and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm
Abs-
very excited.
Absolutely. So something that Luisa and I were talking about just before we hit record and started the session was, okay, Luisa, how would you define your role, what you do? What would you call yourself? So I'm turning it over officially. What would you say?
It's always a little journey, actually. I have a few phrases that I use depending on who I'm talking to. So sometimes it's I'm an embodiment or a self-expression coach. Sometimes it's a yoga teacher. Sometimes it's more a healer. Sometimes it's a body poet or storyteller. There's so many different layers, but for me, it always comes back to actually having a hard time to defining myself as just one thing
Mhm.
because I can feel that I'm so adaptive to my environments. And then also I think we talked about that before. I have a very like dynamic personality, and I think it's also me as a dynamic identity, if you can say so.
Mhm.
Because I can feel that I'm constantly changing and evolving in a way that at times I might not even be sure what actually is my role in this moment, even though this is what I work with.
Mhm.
And years back, someone was saying, I feel like you're some sort of a bridge. You are maybe, and I love to use also the word weaver. I'm
Mhm.
never just in one place. I'm always combining things. I'm connecting things. I'm more like in the door. So I'm giving people, maybe through yoga or embodiment, like a door handle into self expression or into storytelling. So it's more bringing things together, no matter which things. Sometimes it's also just bringing people together or voices. But in that way, I don't have to be solid in one place. I'm the person that combines solid places, but I myself am more fluid.
Mm. Oh my gosh, if you're listening to this and you're watching this and you're watching my faces, I'm like having like sensual food orgasm faces the entire time Luisa is speaking because the way you explain yourself and you articulate yourself is so beautiful. You said some people call me a bridge. Some people call me a door handle to expression. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the doorway. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then you said I'm a body poet. And my inside, like I wrote it down. It's not written very well, but I wrote it down because like, oh my gosh, I need to remember that body poet. So if somebody
Yeah.
is listening to this and they're like, all of these beautiful analogies and metaphors and visualizations that you're giving us, I know I described that you use sensuality, you use Ayurveda. Is it wired or weird body movements?
It's great that you come back to this because
Okay.
the weird or word
Word.
has a lot to do with it. Because the word weird that we use in English, it comes from the Old North word, Wyrd or word. depending on how you pronounce it. And it's the web of Wyrd or Wyrd, which is pretty much fate or it's destiny. And it's three sisters sitting on the roof, on the bottom of a tree, the life tree, Yggdrasil. One sister is the past, one sister is the present, and one sister is the future. And they're all weaving together the web of Wyrd, which is reality. So when you use the word weird, then it is actually just the power to create your own reality.
Mm.
And for me, that comes together with how we speak and how we move, because both are in a way languages, or not in a way, they are both languages.
Mm-hmm.
And the body itself can write, it can speak, it can, like the body is like also a letter as a body together with other letters, or depending on the context, it will create some story or poetry. And with that, I very deeply go into the field of language and words, also the way that I use movement, because I love to let people feel with all their senses, their body, which then opens them up to other possibilities. But you can also enter the senses through words. You can bring people into memories. You can touch even their smells memory, or bring them into a sensation of the skin just by hearing some words. So it's this playing again between worlds that you can either enter through the body and then you can express it out as a poetry, just the way that you're moving, or you're using words and poetry and life and bringing that into the body. So it's a continuous translation.
So Ayurveda Wyrd, which is spelled Wyrd, for anybody that's listening to this or watching this and is like, whoa, I'm weird. I know I'm weird. I always thought I was weird, but now I know, according to Luisa, I'm
Yeah.
definitely weird, especially Wyrd. You can go look that up and inform yourself, but also body wisdom, right? These are what I saw,
Mm-hmm.
like the main pillars of your body poetry, right? I'm just going to stick to that. I love that euphemism or that example of what you do. But I totally agree. And it's very important to me. And it's something that I learned in the past few years, particularly after my dad passed away. Like energy became it became such an invaluable resource, right? Like I got to be really
Mm-hmm.
particular about who I'm spending time with. And it became this awareness that was like, well, if I'm spending time doing things I don't care about versus spending time with my mom, that's a waste of my time. My mom is like, so important to me. So trying to be discerning about that down to how I speak even to myself, the thoughts I hear inside my head, right? And it is a way for me to, when anytime I hear something disparaging or speak something disparaging, to kind of give myself that pause to sense my vibration and get behind that word, get behind like, well,
Yeah.
what's supporting that? Kind of like a bike kickstand. What's holding that up? And then to get behind it, you can sometimes realize, well, that shit I'm talking about myself, maybe even shit I believe about me. That shit I heard. That shit I absorbed. That shit
Yeah.
that I received. Right. And then changing that dynamic then does the opposite. It becomes a kickstand to empower us, to empower our intent.
Mm-hmm.
To sometimes when we are in intention, we can become shy. We can become intimidated. We can become fearful of what perception is. And I love what you're saying because using the body as like a letter, it can kind of tell you when you're feeling tense, like, or if you forget to freaking breathe and you're just like working out and you're like, breathe, and you're like, oh, yes, right? You lose that vibrational attachment to your body. And so
Yeah.
understanding that brings you back to understanding that we're almost like human tuning forks in a way.
Always, always. And I think also when we come together with another person, it brings two energies that then combine into something new. So when
Hmm.
two things come together, and I love the number three, by the way, it's always something third is being grown out of it. So
Hmm.
when two letters come together, or even more, then a word is somehow formed. And I just love also what you said about the energy behind words,
Mm.
because I understand often words or language, and it can be either the body or spoken words or written words. It just like the body of language is holding the energy that's in between. So when we're speaking, it's not so much about the word itself. It's, as you said, the vibration, but
Mhm.
also like how this word is holding the space for this energy to be alive. And when people speak words where there's no meaning in them or even lying, you can feel it's a different sensation, even though the word is to say the same, the outer shape. And
Yes.
when someone is not living in their body, and yet the body is visible, you can still feel and even see that it's another vibration.
Mm. Mm. I just want to be like a piece of bread and dip myself in you and absorb you and just like take you all in. I love what you said, the energy of your aliveness. Holy smokes, right? Because what we feel, what we hold in our body influences how we experience the world, what we think is possible for us. And so that's what I hear you saying. Like, if we could, there are so many, you're very dynamic, you're very multifaceted. I think we all are. I think it's embracing
Yeah.
what that means for us, right? It's kind of like learning how to drive the bike according to you, right? Somebody may be a
Mm,
BMX star where they're going off of jumps and you're like, that's a little too much for me. I just drive on the road,
mm,
right? It's like knowing the
yeah.
energy that you drive in and then working it,
Yes.
just working it all the way. That's what I hear you saying is that like that's your sweet spot almost. Would you agree? Like bringing people back into their body, recognizing the energy that they're working with, and then work the energy of their version of aliveness.
Yeah. 100%. You put it very well into words.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Also, I would say that it's what you said about possibility, because when you are in the body, then you can also be attuning for it. You can sense what's going on around you, and then you can even connect yourself with something else. You can reach out of your body. It's not that you're contained out of prison inside of yourself, and then you have to deal with what you have. It's also how do you um, how do you embody that to vibrate that even into a different dynamic or energy, and then almost everything becomes possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So, so true, right? Once you realize what you're capable of and what your capacity is, then you know how to work within that. And you also know how to
Mm,
find like the edges of that, which we were talking about just before this as well, is like, I was stopped up on what graphics I should use and when I should start this. And it just became this other obstruction that I was allowing. I was allowing to create the possibility of, well, I can't do this until this. And when I allowed myself to realize I have more fun just doing it, all of the other stuff can come later, right? You almost allow yourself to be free, be a little rock and roll with it, even experience things that maybe you've never witnessed or you've never heard of, but invite yourself to be brave with your own energy.
yeah, so much. And I love that you are also reminding me of that often.
Thank you. So, for
Yeah.
all of the things in the world that you could have chosen, Luisa, like for all the things any of us could have chosen, right, to do, to be, to contribute, and to stand for in this time of life that you're alive in, why this? Why did you choose to be, as we'll stick to what we said here today, a body poet?
Um, I think it shows me. It was the opposite way. And I tried out different ways, but as I said before, that I'm constantly in this like moving realms. I did different things. So I even started with a more, I would say, accepted or normal pathway, which was costume design. So I worked with clothes, but I was constantly interested in what is the meaning of those clothes? What do the different clothings create? How do they change the way that people walk? How does it change the fabric that they wear, how they feel? And then it got all the way into the body, and it got deeper and deeper. So I just wove myself into different terminologies. I studied also literature and art and media and performance. I danced my whole life, and then it somehow came together with the yoga path where I felt, um, yeah, it's bringing this feeling of different bodies that we have into one dynamic dance. And that was the only way that for me it made sense, when I can connect the pieces and not try to be in a conform way working for other people. That was a huge thing because I always was in my head and seeing the connections. So I just jumped into cold water out of joy and wanted to figure out if it was even possible.
Mm.
And still here I am. And I'm still figuring things out, but I never went back to another way. So I'm continuously creating and exploring and then combining that into what I share.
Mm. I love that you kind of connected the dots on your path because you're all about mapping, right? Like tuning into what feels right for you and mapping your life around that as your lifestyle, right? And I love that you felt into it. As someone who's divergent has a really big particularity about the texture of fabrics. Um, Everything you're saying is like, I totally relate to that because I can see something on a rack or, online somewhere and be like, that's beautiful. And then put it on my person. And I'm like, this has to get off me immediately, if not sooner, because the
Yeah.
fabric just feels constricting or it doesn't feel fluid like I want it to feel.
Mm,
So would you
yeah.
consider yourself a feeler? You're somebody that has to feel something before you move with it?
Mm. It's a tricky question and I love it just because it is juicy. I grew up in the belief that I'm such a deep feeler,
Hmm.
which I am. I'm very empathetic and I can sense things
Hmm.
and I need to feel. But often, I'm not sure if it's a physical feeling in the sense of that it has to feel nice, like in my heart or something. It's more the overall sense of something resonates or yeah, maybe it's more an overall feeling. It's not just in one piece. It's like the whole connection of me to the outer world.
Hmm.
So when I feel things are flowing and I feel connected, maybe that's the right word there. When I feel connected to a choice or something is taking me in or taking me out. So it's a physical sensation. Um, but it's not this kind of like turning inwards and feeling it and digesting it and then going out again. It's
Hmm.
more how much am I able to receive and more almost become transparent with it.
Hmm. Yes. This is really fascinating. And I love the synchronicities of the world, because this is really what Dirty Pretty is about for me. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, but for me, it's not necessarily that the things that we feel compelled to do are always going to feel great. Sometimes they're going to scare the shit out of you. And
Oh
it's learning
yeah.
how to differentiate between I'm scared shitless because it's new and unfamiliar and it's challenging to me bigger. It's challenging me to be more visible than I've ever been. Therefore, I'm uncomfortable and I want to shy away from it versus this is
Uh-huh.
bad for me. This is not healthy. This is not the person I intend to be. This is not what I want to contribute to the world. And learning how to like
Yeah.
do that sensuality dance, I'm just imagining Luisa just doing a sensuality dance, to kind of, yes, yes, to just understand the difference that there can be discomfort in things that are really good for you.
Oh yes. I had so many moments in my life where I was cringing and breaking open at the same time. And I think everything comes back for me to how can I be the most alive? And that includes all the emotions, it includes all the sensations. I think what I take as the only marker of something that's not in that, uh, yeah, somehow palette of sensations and being more alive is when something feels stagnant or stuck, which is then not alive.
Hmm.
So when something makes me cringe, but I can still feel there is something growing from that, whether it's bad, so to say, or good, but something is still in the process and it might help me to grow bigger, or it just pushes me into another direction of sensing and feeling another way, then that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just another sensation. But when something feels stuck and I feel kind of like trapped and not connected, or like not that something is happening there, so it's almost like a numb feeling,
Mm-hmm.
then I can almost like know directly this is not it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like for me, it's like I can't we're again we were talking about this before. It's like I can't breathe. It's when I notice like I'm holding my breath, I'm so tense that I'm not paying
Yeah.
attention to my physical person to where it's like, oh, I need to
Hmm.
breathe. It's such a weird
Yeah.
sensation where you feel disconnected, you feel disassociated from your body. And so I really resonate
Mm.
with the stagnation example as well, because when I come to something that does not feel healthy for me, does not feel congruent and authentic for me, it's typically something that makes me feel disconnected from myself, disconnected from my
Oh
truth,
yeah.
authenticity.
Hmm. And I love that you say the like breathing. For me, it's the exhale. Maybe you can relate to that, but so often, especially for myself, I thought in a romantic relationship, it's a great thing when you can't breathe and it's like, oh my God, I'm so excited to meet this person. And like everything is kind of heightened.
Yeah.
But in the end, the more I breathe, there is stagnation, even though at first it feels so exciting. So
Hmm.
I had to turn that around for myself, um, that actually the exhale feelings with a person is so much more valid and powerful because that lets me breathe in eventually.
Hmm.
But the other way, there's like it's like almost an explosion. And I think it goes for so many other things. This way of how can we breathe with things, and they don't have to be comfortable for us to be able to breathe, but we have to choose to breathe. And if there is something holding us back from breathing, then there is not a resonation, like there is not a synchronicity of us and something else. So there is no light.
Yes. So speaking of life, what are three things that you would say you love the most about what you do? Why is it fun? Why is it exciting? Why is it a sensually positive experience?
Does it have to be positive?
Well, we'll get to the negatives in a minute. So, yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Um, three things. First of all, it's never boring
Mm,
because every day, every minute, every second, with every person, every season, like it always feels somehow new,
mhm,
and it it opens me up in so many ways.
mhm,
And I never stop learning. Probably that has been three things, but I just take it as one. And then um second thing is that I can trust my own timing, and I can trust just the way I create things and I connect with people. I don't have this feeling of there is a structure around me that is not me. So everything that I do is me. It's all raw me. And I think that's not as often to be found in how people work. So I'm super grateful for that.
mhm,
And the third one is it comes a bit together with the second one, but just that I have, with the work that I do, created my own sense of freedom,
mhm,
which is freedom of choice and freedom of time and freedom of energy. And that is more valuable than having stability in a sense that feels constrictive to me.
mm, mm. And when you say constrictive to you, So what I hear when you said that last thing, and thank you for sharing all of those three things, and I think a lot of us can resonate. The thing that most of us I think are after is that sensation of feeling within ourselves that we are free. And understanding that there's the constraints of mortality, understanding there's the constraints of law, understanding all those things. We're not talking about those things. We're talking about just your essence feeling free, right? And so
Mm,
when when we get to a place, I think, where we allow ourselves to accept what that means, it doesn't always mean like you're going to be rich. It doesn't always
no.
mean you're going to have, all the money in the world. It doesn't mean you're going to be the most successful person in every room or in every group. What I hear you talking
Mm,
about is humbling yourself to understanding that there is a perception of success and then there's a reality of what it means for you.
yeah, I would agree. And this is the only way that feels true so
Mhm.
far, which is a big part. Because everything else wouldn't be true to my essence or my soul wanting to express itself. And that's what I take as the, yeah, most important value for the work that I do.
I think that's so brave to admit because I think that in our world, we're encouraged to aspire for wealth as monetary
Mm,
as things. And I think there is a resurgence or perhaps just a more visible vocalization coming into the forefront. Hopefully, Dirty Pretty is one of them, which is that, you can be wealthy in other ways. You don't have to assign your wealth to what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you live in, what the extent of your wardrobe is, not even the credentials or the letters and the articles after your name, right? There's a
mm,
personal sense of wealth that lives in owning your humanity and becoming aware of what it means for you to be, and what you said is the energy of your aliveness. Like, what does the wealth in the energy of your aliveness mean despite things? And things I'm not saying are bad. Like I like fashion. I'm definitely one of those people. However, that's a form of
mm.
expression that really resonates with me because my personality is dynamic too. But I hear you talking about encouraging people, challenging people even to understand what the wealth of their reality is.
Yeah, so much. And then wealth in a sense of financial wealth or aesthetics and fashion and everything can come along with it if
Right.
that is your choice and it's not what people told you and what you bought in as a belief that this is the wealth that you have to strive for. And I think that's um, such a tricky thing and also very vulnerable for people because what we think we want often is just what someone else gave us as a want. And when you ask someone, what do you want to want? It becomes a completely different question.
Yes. Yes. And this isn't to disparage financial wealth. Like everybody, I think, would like it to be
Yeah.
very easy to accumulate financial wealth because there's a sense of security. But what I think we're
Mm,
pointing to here is that everything that you have a relationship to is an energy. And that energy, how you manage that is your responsibility to understand. So if you're aspiring for wealth to define who you are so you can feel happy about who you are, that's an energy of a relationship that you're establishing. But if you
yeah.
aspire for wealth because you respect it and you respect what it gives to you in your life, or you respect how it helps you function in life, that's a different type of
And
energy.
how it makes you feel.
Yes. Yes, right. If it gives you that stagnated feeling, right, that you were talking about, where it's like, if I don't have wealth,
Mm,
desperation, desperation, panic, panic, right? Or if it's, I have wealth and I'm fluid and I'm taken care of, and my energy around it is that as well. That's just something I think we're both suggesting, like, look at that. Neither is right or wrong. Just look at the energy
yeah.
you're gravitating and you're vibrating in.
So much.
So these are the three things you love about what you do. What are the three things you find most challenging about what you do? Like, why is it shitty? Why does it suck? Let us know.
Okay. Three things. What is that? I, for myself, it's both a luxury and very, very humbling to be in the work that I do, me and myself, like very raw, very authentic. And that's also like my biggest value in how I work is authenticity. But with that comes a lot of vulnerability. And that also means, hello, we have a visitor.
Oh, hi, Bubba.
That also means that I open myself up a lot and I share perspectives, I share maybe concepts or practices or also experiences from myself that people might either judge or feel connected to, but I can never control how things will land. And that is not always a nice feeling, although I enjoy to work in this authenticity, but I feel very raw and very, very sensitive when I go out and meet people. But this is the only way that I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I would close the door. So so that is challenging and it somehow sucks, although this is the only way that I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Another way is coming back to stability. It sucks actually to not know, but who does really in these times and days, that I don't know what in the end of the month will be on my bank account.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's way more, sometimes it's way less than I expected. Uh, and I can feel there's so much contraction just with this not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with being self-employed and doing my own things and working more with projects. So I accept it. But I'm having a hard time with it. And I really need to do a lot of nervous system regulation and grounding work because otherwise I would be just too anxious to do what I'm doing.
Yeah,
And the third one,
I relate.
I think I probably talk to everyone working self-employed and doing their own stuff. But yeah, whew. Uh, so what else sucks? Well, actually, maybe it's a personal thing, but sometimes it just sucks that I have to explain a lot what I'm actually doing because the things that I do are not definable in just one container and one box.
Mhm.
And that brings me at times into this kind of almost feeling of I have to prove myself, which I hate, just
Mhm.
because the things that I do are in the way that I'm doing them or in the way I'm combining them are rather weird or new or just different. And in order for people to understand them when they're not experiencing them, now I'm having cats jumping around me. Uh, yeah, I have to, in sorts, explain myself and prove myself and show off. And I'm not really the person that enjoys that so much when it comes to mm, selling something. It doesn't have to be a program or money, but in general, like I don't want to brag about things so much. And I'm practicing with this.
Yeah, so I mean, I hear what you're saying is like visibility. Visibility is challenging,
Mm,
and it sounds like, I would consider myself, even though it probably doesn't seem that way, but I consider myself a pretty private person. And being visible is very challenging for me. And because, like you're saying, everybody communicates differently, and sometimes what we communicate when we think we're being clear doesn't always land clear with someone else. And so then we have to take the extra effort to explain. And sometimes that explaining can make us feel like we're not explaining it well. And we're trying to find a different way to explain it, but we only know ourselves. And so it does require
yeah.
a lot of self accountability and self responsibility to reconcile with our nervous system, to reconcile with the capacity of what we have available and what we're willing to do and not do, as far as
Mm,
advertise our business. And it goes back to what you said about the things that you love about it, right? And being able to really live in the both and of those experiences, to not let these things that you dislike about it, even though they are real and they are deeply authentic, interrupt the things that you love about it.
100%. Yeah.
So with these things that you like and you dislike, how do you manage the balance between the like and dislike of your field while maintaining passion and commitment to it?
Hmm. I think I bring a more creative and also very honest approach to it with myself. So whatever comes up as a challenge, I try to use somehow as a way to grow and to, yeah, somehow enhance also the things that I might not be super comfortable about in a way that I then through this enter people or enter places. So I, even though it's uncomfortable at times, but I love to share discomfort. I love to share very personal stories and things that touched me or that changed me to connect with people and to enter another realm. Um, and when it comes to the structure of stability or the way of in general being seen and the maybe more mm, artistic lifestyle that I live is also embracing it more and more. I was kind of avoiding or almost denying the way that I was living, trying also to box myself, to define myself in a way, even though I knew it wasn't real. So yeah, nowadays I just more and more embrace it all and dance with it. And through this, it becomes more one piece, one whole, and not separated so much. So then coming back to all the facets or the full spectrum of feeling, it's also the full spectrum of my work, I guess.
So in what ways then do your dislikes strategically inform how you do what you do?
Can you ask that question again? Maybe in
Yeah,
another way?
Yeah, so understanding that there are going to be challenges, right? And you're talking specifically about, in this particular instance, visibility and, perhaps
Mm,
people not understanding you or what you do. And, that can be kind of diminishing. It can make us feel like, well, there's no place in the world for what I do if people don't understand me, right? And so
mm,
in facing that, we have to put up some boundaries around ourselves to understand that how we live, as you said in your explanation previously, is an artistic choice,
mm.
right? So how do you choose then to fulfill your artistic choice, understanding that there are going to be people that may not like your art?
It's sometimes tricky, but at the same time, it gives me structure and boundary also where to spend my energy.
Mhm.
So I'm nowadays not trying to convince anyone anymore, and
Mm,
instead sensing out what's what's opening up when I appear, when I talk about my things. And if people don't get it, then I way more quickly just move along instead of trying it more in a different way and finding another door or talking to another person or describing things differently. So it's I think using less effort when I don't feel something is opening up. And once it does, then I'm being like the full weird self. But it's just this navigating and directing and where I put my attention and then also what grows out of the intention.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I guess it's just a, for me, more healthy way of shipping around different different job opportunities or different projects and not attach myself so much to the outcome and use every opportunity there is just as a way of also experiencing for myself and then seeing if something grows out of it and finding if the potential is just in my head or if it can be created into something new.
Mm.
So I think a short answer is just yeah, being more aware of timing of response and then taking it from there and not so much about wants and expectations.
Yes, I hear so much energy right? There's a congruence of energy that I hear in your response of like, I'm not looking to convince people. And what I hear you saying is one of your boundaries is once I feel myself in an energy of trying to convince people, I know that I'm not in integrity, right? It sounds like that's like a
Hmm.
an energetic cue, a bodily cue, a weird cue that is thrown up to you of, oh no, I'm trying to prove myself. I'm trying to convince them. And what I hear your business being all about energetics and the energy of your aliveness. I love that so much. I'm going to say it a million times. You're looking for people that it automatically becomes an intuitive yes for. They have already have resonance with it. And I don't hear you saying that, I'm not willing to give people more details about what I do. I don't hear you saying that.
No,
But
no.
what I hear you saying is there needs to be a congruence, not only for you, but for somebody else, because this is a choice not to just, go to a yoga class. This is a choice to change your lifestyle.
Mm, yeah. I would also say it comes with curiosity. People don't have to understand what I'm doing, but if they feel there's a curiosity or a potential or a possibility, or they just feel, as you said, some energy vibrating and resonating, then that's enough, and everything else will come. And often, even like explaining more will not help at all. The experience itself will be so much more powerful than any word can be.
Mhm.
And yet, we need words and we need communication and we need details. And I love details and I love subtleties and I go in more into the depth. But yeah, it always comes back to, is it the right time? Is it the right person? Is it the right environment? And if all of those things are not together in symphony, then it might not be the right thing.
Mm, No, no, no deeper than that, right? If it doesn't feel right, then it's not right.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
So with both this likes and dislikes, besides money, because you're an entrepreneur, this is your business. It has to be viably, financially, successful in order for you to live your life and to sustain your well-being, because money is a byproduct of our well-being, whether we like it or not. With both these likes and dislikes, besides money, why do you sustain this? Knowing that this is a lot about whether somebody is going to, somewhere in the ether, you can't even predict, is or isn't going to
Mm,
like this. And as you said, there's no determination what your bank account is going to look like from month to month. There's really a lot of trust involved in this. So besides money,
yeah.
why do you sustain it or continue pursuing it, knowing these dirty, pretty challenges exist?
It comes all into trust, but also some dirty topic with myself, because I was asking myself the same question
Hmm.
many times over the last now, I think 12 years since I'm doing what I'm doing in different ways. And whatever I'm imagining to be my job, other than what I'm doing, even though it has changed, I can't see myself in it as being alive or somehow, even though I have different backgrounds and also what I've studied and what I've learned, and I know I can adapt pretty quickly to circumstances, but I'm not even sure if there is right now another way of work or self-expression for me, that I'm as good as to bring my full being into than this.
Mm.
Because everything else would be, for me, I guess, just a fragment of who I am, which is not a problem. But at this point in my life, want to be, I want to be my job as well, which is
Yeah.
it's a tricky choice because so many people tell you like, don't identify yourself with your job, but this is pretty much who I am. Like I am what you see in my job. I am what I do, what I offer, what I believe in. And if it wasn't, then I wouldn't do it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's why I still sustain it because this is the way that I can live from an authentic self in all that I am. and it comes with all the challenges, but as long as there is not another way that also gives me the same richness,
Mm.
I will not change it.
Mm.
And of course, there are so many challenges, but it always comes back to this truth of where can I be fully me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like you're saying like it makes me whole. I do this because it
Mm.
makes me whole. But I also love that you're introducing to the concept of wholeness that it's not that easy to be whole. It's I wish that we could say like it's just so easy, just be yourself. But if it was so easy to be
Yeah,
yourself, like we wouldn't have half of the support mechanisms in our, world that we do with therapists and
yeah.
coaches and consultants and advisors. Like it's not that easy. It's challenging with all the competing opposites that exist in the world. And, some people's way of doing things, they're very strong about it. And,
Mm.
the thing that really intrigues me about what you do though, and is something that I have experienced quite a bit in my life is this concept of being energetically inclined, somebody that responds to how you feel, or being empathic, or being highly intuitive. There's a population and a subset of the world that like that's crap. Intuition is crap. And being an empath is crap. Trusting the energy is crap, right? So for someone like you, it's not crap. For someone like me, it's not crap. But to live in a world that does have that mindset, it's a challenge, right? To push
Yeah.
against, that's a challenge. That's a part of your wholeness. It's a part of my wholeness. So to people that would say that, people that are listening to this, even being like, this whole thing is crap, what would you say?
I was waiting for this question because
Woo!
this is one of my most like joyful, fun things to go on parties and have all the kind of scientific people around me and start with what I do and what my job is about, and everyone gets super curious and excited. Mm, and I think it also comes from just opening up to what we don't know.
Mhm.
Because whatever we're studying, whatever we're doing, the deeper we go, the more we don't know.
Mhm.
And when it comes to energy, there's so simple ways to change the perspective for people because we are continuously, every day, every moment working with energy. We are using our phones, which is a connection of the energetic web, electric fields, magnetics, and all of that. And it's completely magical when you think of it from a perspective of going back to the 60s, what we're doing now with our phones. And energy is the same thing, also, what you like feel when someone is about to touch you and you just know it, but you don't see it. There's so many ways that we do naturally, or when you come into a room and you just feel off. Um, but I mean, those are even more intuitive things that maybe people will try to bring into scientific ways. And I like to tell those people that mm, magic is just, I think, unproven science.
Mm.
So everything that is not yet proven is not less real or not less tangible, not less powerful, just because we haven't figured out how it works.
I'm over here just like choking in the best way possible because you're throwing out energy. And just to kind of back up for a second, when you are growing in energy, there's a lot of times a lot of healers I've worked with, and you can share your piece on this as well, Luisa, that says, when you're growing and expanding in energy, you'll feel an actual expulsion of things that you're letting go of. Like you'll burp, you'll fart,
Yes.
you may get the spiritual flu, you may have diarrhea, you may get a headache. There are ways that
Mm.
you'll expel it. And in my experience, when I am ingesting energy from someone that my body is receptive to, it almost hits me in a way that I'm swallowing it down, like I'm filling myself up with food. And that's what's happening right now. I'm getting nurtured because you said the deeper we go, the more we don't know. And there's just so much wisdom in that. And I think that that again is what I wanted Dirty Pretty to be about, right? There's these competing opposites that are going on in life all the time, and they're overlapping all the time. And the deeper we go in our life, the more wise we get in our experiences, yes, but also the more we don't know, right? Like you don't know what's going to happen
Yeah.
when you have spent your whole life from a woman's standpoint having a menses and then in menopause, you don't know what's going to happen there. And you can't compare it to someone else's because they're different, right? The energy is different. Your body is different. Your body's going to process it different.
Yeah.
Furthermore, you said magic is just unproven science, right? If we could explain why things happen that are grandiose. Oh my gosh, your cat is killing me. I love it so much. If we could explain things that happen that are grandiose, then they wouldn't be magical. We would just continue perpetuating them. We would be like, this is how you do
Mhm.
it. And we would just keep doing it. But
Yes.
we
It would
can't.
kill the vibe. It would kill our curiosity. It will kill our fantasy. It would kill like all the glue in between. And that's what I call the awe, or like all the little pieces of wonder, what makes us want to live. Because actually, just to bring it down into the only thing that we know is that we have no fucking clue what we're actually doing here. Nobody knows. Even though there's some people that maybe came back from like a what is it called? Like half death experience, half death, death.
Yeah, like
Uh,
a life or death experience. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah,
Okay, yeah,
somehow in between. Yes,
yeah.
exactly. Uh, Even them, like they don't fully know. There's maybe a glimpse that I've seen, but in general, we will not 100% know what we're all doing here unless we're out of it. And then we're not in it anymore. And that's
Yeah,
the only truth. So in general, nobody really knows what they're doing, and yet everyone claims to do. No.
I know. I know. And it's so interesting as like a coach, as a healer, right? There feels like there's this pull for you to be like, I know it all, and I'm the most wise, and I know
Yeah.
the best over all the other coaches and all the other healers. And I'm just like, yo, I'll just be honest. I have, a difficult time figuring out what's best for me. I'm not going to know what fucking is best for you. I can help you and I can
Mm,
guide you into presence with yourself, which is what I hear you
yeah.
saying, right? Is like,
Yeah.
in these contradictions, the core of our humanity is we're all complex. That's it. And if we're complex, born
Yes.
to a universe that's complex, what's going to happen to us and our experiences are going to be complex too. And what
Yeah.
I hear you offer people is a space, which is the same thing that I feel Dirty Pretty is. It's a sanctuary to find your strength, to know what it means for you to be a human being and you to live that the way that feels best and most authentic for you, right? Like that's the magic, as you said, magic is unproven science, and we're all unproven science, just moving from next experience to next experience to next experience, trying to find a way to
Yes.
say, how can I trust myself in all the unpredictables? And what I feel like we're talking about here is coming into a place with trusting your energy. That's really like, to me, that's like the bare bones of how you're going to be able to do it. We can't give you like, here you go and buy a bag of, Doritos. Here you go and take this yoga class. Like we can't prescribe these things. It's all about becoming
No.
that tuning fork we were talking about.
Yeah. That's so right. And that's the beauty of it all for me is that there is no prescription of one fits all. Everyone has to figure it out themselves, which doesn't mean that we can't get inspired by other people, that we can't kind of adopt a few things, but they will never be other people's things once we start doing them. And then the real dance starts to see whether this is what brings us further, this is what opens us more up, that makes us more alive, more rich, more full, or just be more aware of what's actually happening. Um, yeah, and I think I stand for all the facets, for the full spectrum, and as much as I can help people allow that and sometimes find it or just remember it, the happier this makes me, but also the more I feel aligned with myself because this is my authenticity and my realness.
Yeah, because what's going to work for you may not work for someone else, right? And like
Yeah.
what I find creates balance, or at least it does for me in my head in the world, is just accepting that, right? Like I totally don't agree with what person X is doing, but that's just because it doesn't work for me. It doesn't make person X wrong, right? Like
Mm,
there are some days where eating that bag of Doritos or ordering a pizza is what I need on that day, right? There are some days where going to that yoga
yeah.
class is what brings me solace and that sense of calm on that day, right? But it's allowing ourselves to kind of play and explore and yeah, have those things of like, I know this thing works for me, right? But what else could I figure out? Maybe that's not the thing that's going to work today. And if it doesn't, don't beat yourself up over it. Get on your thinker hat, get on your I'm a little kid hat, and go play and explore and see what works.
Yeah. And you know what I've just heard and kind of applied to my own life these days? Because play is such an important tool.
Mhm.
And as humans, at a certain age, we just stop doing it,
Mhm.
or we put it into things that we need to achieve, and then it's not just play. It's more how to how to prove ourselves, how to aim for something instead of doing things just for the sake of doing them. But what I ask myself often is, how can I make my 5-year-old self proud?
Mhm.
Not the me that I am right now, but like the 5-year-old self that was just all about curiosity, play, magic, fascination, going for what felt right in that moment and not planning ahead for years and years. And that brings me so much more encouragement and also so much more like self confidence
Mhm.
than asking my now self often what I want, because that is informed by so many other things.
Mhm.
And another way would be if I just imagine myself as like the old lady. Uh, my old lady drinks tea, has cats, and somehow learns how to skateboard because I never was able to do that. And I think like when I'm old and I want to,
I love
so
that.
I ask myself like, how can I make the 5-year-old me proud, and how can I make the like old lady proud that doesn't have to prove anything anymore? That just has this whole lifetime behind her, and then it's all about how can I now spend this time in the most like yummy way? And as a kid, it's like this whole excitement. So there are two things coming together, and I wish for this version to combine both of them.
Mm, I love that. That's one of my favorite things to do is to just kind of take note. This would make little me so proud. This would make little me think I'm the coolest, right? Like have those moments where you can really celebrate that because as you said, we were talking about this before too. Beyonce has her alter ego, Sasha Fierce, and
Yeah.
mine is Shasha, and Louisa can share hers if she likes. But that alter ego allows us to come out and know that we're not trying to show off. We're just trying to inspire. We're just trying to do the thing that we feel like divinity put us here to do. And sometimes there's not an explanation for that, right? And sometimes
Mm,
the energy that we feel called to embody.
yes.
So, given these pros and cons we've talked about here today, and we could have many, many hours of conversation, Louisa. You said yummy, and I was like, that is Louisa in a nutshell. She is yummy. Your energy is so yummy.
Aw.
Um, what and why, given pros and cons that you've discussed here today, why do you think that you are the most suitable person to carry out your role as a healer, a coach, a body poet? Why you?
Why not?
Yes, I want everybody to just take a moment to say, why not? To any question you have about what you're thinking for yourself, why not?
Hmm. I think also because I embody everything that I do, and with it, I encourage people to do the same just for themselves.
Mm, so good. So, are there any final thoughts that you would like to add?
Hmm. Any final thoughts? Yeah, I think one inspirational quote maybe I just heard. I can't remember who said it actually, but it also helps me to navigate through days when, especially when it comes to decisions that we either have to make or that we once made and now maybe regret or think about or try to turn around. Um, and there was this one person, and she said, "Don't stress about making the right decision, but make the decision right." And then
As
everything is just like, okay, just choose. But then after the choice, you make it whatever you want it to be.
Mm, yes, I what I hear you saying with that is think about what you're thinking, right?
Yeah.
Give it half a beat to be right before you allow it to be wrong, or you find all these reasons to interject it and to make it wrong according to anybody else's standards. Think about what you're thinking and give it half a moment to be valid.
Yes.
Mm. So as we wrap this up here today, thank you so much for being here. I'm very confident that there's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of insight that people gather from just giving contemplation to their own energy and how it leads them. And for all of you
Mm.
that are watching, why not? Why not? Just say why not out of this with you. And also, the only thing we know is we have no fucking clue, Luisa. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Something that I did want to just point out is, Luisa, can you tell us what part of the world you're in?
That would be like a huge new topic. And sorry, but right now I live in Sweden, in Stockholm. But originally I'm from Germany and I moved 2.5 years ago.
Wonderful. So I wanted everyone to know that she's in Stockholm, Sweden, and just as she said, true to herself, she kind of follows her own breadcrumbs and follows her feelings. So right now, this is where she's at, and including being in Stockholm, Sweden. What do you have going on? What can people look forward to seeing coming from you? Where can they find you? Give us all the goods.
All right. You will find me on all the standard platforms like Instagram, Facebook, even though I don't really use it much and I have a website. On Instagram, my name is Luisa Lotta, which is Lotta, and then underscore and gin, like the drink. And my website is just my name, luisadörste.com. And I'm working on a few things that make me super excited. Voice and language in combination with communication and body and movement is always a thing.
Mm.
So I'm right now working out a program for voice. So like the voice as a body and how we can use the body in a sense of voicing ourselves better, but at the same time, how can we map our voices and connect them more with the body so that we can understand ourselves in another way? But also, how can we communicate as well as understand other people through that?
Mm.
And it's mixed therapeutic, mixed embodiment, and linguistic language.
Mm. Is this going to be a program?
It's going to be probably a program, but I will first of all offer it as a one-on-one.
Oh,
So
nice.
some one-on-one coaching sessions. But I have ongoing programs also on embodiment, on language, on poetry, on movement and sensuality. I teach breathwork classes, meditation classes, yoga classes, also online. And here and there, I do some events and some workshops and even retreats.
So the retreats, the programs that are running currently, the places where you're doing breathwork online, they can find that all on your website?
Yes.
Beautiful. So go to Instagram, check out Luisa, go to her website. It's beautifully written. It's a beautiful experience. Just as Luisa's energy is delicious, her website is just as delicious. Thank you so much for being here, Luisa.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a very delicious and yeah, very tasteful conversation, if I may say so.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And thank you for being here. Until next time, be good to yourself for fuck's sake. Live in the dirty pretty of your life and choose to do the next right thing for you. Bye.